So I'm not sure she's going to be able to do it going into 2025. But at the end of 2025, this has to happen. So Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas is now just 1 week away from tying Lil Nas X's Old Town Road and Shaboozey's bar song Tipsy as the longest running number one hit in Hot 100 history. Okay, so if you would have told me back in the early 90s when that song first came out, All I Want for Christmas would still be like chopping the charts in 2024. I was like, this is ridiculous. I love the song. I just didn't think that song was going to be that huge. Like I loved it back in like 90, 91, 92 when it first came out. I love that song. I still love that song. It's my second favorite Christmas song after Donny Hathaway's This Christmas. But no way did I think it will still be dominating in 2024. But I like this. We got to get this thing at number one. Because when I look at this, I have no idea Shaboozey's bar song Tipsy. Listen, I am a fan of the original Tipsy by Jaquan. Tipsy. I've always liked that song better. But I got nothing. I got no problem with Shaboozey's song Tipsy. It's just that I'm surprised it stayed number one for 19 weeks. It's like, who's still listening to this song after 19? It's like, is this song really this popular? Now, Lil Nas X, I'm not a fan of Lil Nas X, but I do remember that time. And when that song first came out, it was like, oh, okay, this is a very interesting, like, country hip-hop tune. But then the country station was like, we ain't playing it. And there was all that controversy. And then Billy Ray Cyrus jumped on the record. So there was a whole stuff around Old Town Road with Lil Nas X. So I totally understood it. Still, I didn't like the fact it was like 19 weeks. Because I come from a time period where you had airplay and record sales, and that dictated long-running number one hits, right? There's a reason why some songs stayed at number one for a long time. Years ago, when I was a kid, little kid, I remember Physical, because I was used to write down Casey Kasem's Hot 100. And Olivia Newton-John's Physical was like number one for like 10 weeks or something like that. It's like, wow. But again, the song was great. She was pretty. The video was funny. The video was crazy now when I watch it. But man, Physical was everywhere. So you kind of understood it, right? Years later, Mariah Carey actually had the record with One Sweet Day with Boyz II Men. Boyz II Men had several of those records. They had End of the Road was number one for a long time. I think I'll Make Love to You was number one for a while. Like, it's just Boyz II Men kept on having these long running hits, but then they had it again with One Sweet Day. I love One Sweet Day. That song is a perfect song, is a well-written song. The song actually has meaning. The voices between Mariah and Boyz II Men, especially with Mariah and Wanye, was beautiful. The thing about One Sweet Day is we never hear it. I don't hear it on traditional R&B stations. I don't hear it. I don't hear it on adult contemporary stations. It's like the song doesn't exist anymore. I don't know why. Like One Sweet Day is a type of song we should hear like around Memorial Day because it's a beautiful song. So that song was like 16 weeks at number one. And in fact, in 2025, it'll be 30 years old. Yeah, that's crazy for that song. But then after a while, streaming happened. So back in the 90s, the Macarena was like number one for like 16 weeks. It was crazy. But again, people was buying these songs, right? Streaming happens, which is less on sales, more on streaming. And I don't like it because the thing, when you incorporate more streaming, that means anybody can manipulate that chart. At least with back in the day when it was like record sales and radio airplay, you know, there was laws against payola and things like that. Even though they worked around it, you still had laws against payola. There is no laws against streaming. Like anybody can just keep on streaming a song or a record or an album over and over and over again. So whenever he's like, oh, this person has all the top 10 hits in the top 10, it's like, how is this possible? It doesn't matter. Whenever you get someone's album and you like it, there's some songs you like and then some songs you just skip. When you tell me, oh yeah, they released an album, it has 15 songs and every song is charting. It's like, come on, man. Somebody's clearly manipulating streaming. And I think that's the case with Lil Nas X. And I think that's the case with Shaboozey. There's no way these songs should be number one this long. Now, okay, for instance, I'll take, let's look at Louis Fonsi's Despacito, right? Despacito was like number one for like 18 weeks or something like that. Now, again, this is all still in the streaming era, but here's the difference. The difference is with Louis Fonsi, one, it was already a hit. It was already a big hit on its own. Then Justin Bieber jumped on that. And people forget, like he hasn't jumped on a record in a while. But man, when Justin Bieber jumps on any song, it becomes a bigger hit. So I understood when Despacito was a major hit a few years ago. And Despacito was everywhere. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing Despacito. And plus also you have a huge Latin market. So you have a mainstream market, a Latin market, Justin Bieber on a remix, the original version. So I understood why Despacito was number one for like 18 weeks or 17, 18 weeks or things like that. I don't understand Shaboozey. I didn't understand Lil Nas X. So in 2025, when we come to Christmas of 2025, we have to right the wrong when Mariah lost that record with Boyz II Men on One Sweet Day. We got to push All I Want for Christmas to number one again. So we can tie those two and move past it. Because we got All I Want for Christmas got to get past 20 weeks. Because this is going to be another crazy tune that's going to be number one for like 19 weeks or 20 weeks. And it's like, how did this song stay number one for so long? So I'm saying this with peace and love. Like the great Ringo Starr once said, All I Want for Christmas 2025. People got to stream the heck out of it. I hate streaming, but in this case, go streaming. Because I think when it comes to Mariah Carey, man, I think she has been so disrespected in so many ways. Mariah Carey has never won an MTV award. Makes no sense. All these videos, all these years, she has never won an MTV award. She's never won Album of the Year at the Grammys. Like people talk about Beyonce. Yeah, Beyonce's never won, but Mariah has deserved that too. Like the debut album could have won. Fantasy she could have won. Honey she could have won. Man, like Emancipation of Mimi should have been the album. Because all these years they could say, okay, well, we didn't give it to her. Let's give it to Emancipation of Mimi. Emancipation of Mimi was a great record. It's still one of the best albums of this era, of this century. You know, it's still, but they didn't give it to her. I think they gave it to Steely. No, that's Steely Dan. Did they give it to Steely Dan? They gave it to somebody. It was like, how did this happen again? So for us to help Mariah Carey, we're going to have to make All I Want for Christmas number one in 2025. So, and she has to be at least number one for like 20, 21 weeks. It got to go past 20 weeks, you know, for sure. Before I go, I have noticed something interesting with Mariah. It seems like she's been dating Anderson Paak. And I was like, how long has this been going on? Because I saw a picture of them for Christmas. Like, wow, okay, this is because they was going out to dinner. I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. So I looked it up, and they were together back in June. He was with her and her kids. And Mariah, she's not a person that just like date. She's really more of a relationship gal. So for Anderson Paak to bring around her kids, that's pretty big. But I figured, okay, it's just hanging out. But then I saw another picture of them in Halloween, and she was dressed like a cat, and inside he was dressed like one from Daft Punk. I was like, wow, how did this happen? Because Anderson Paak, he's younger than her, but I always love Mariah. You know, I think it was I forget, like a 17, 18-year-old difference between them. But Mariah got a youthful spirit. Anderson's always a fun guy. So it seems like they're having a lot of fun together. The thing that I would like to see, though, I would love to see him producing a record for her, an album for her, because I love Anderson Paak's production because it's not neo soul, but it's very soulful. I hate to call it neo soul because that was a specific time period, but it kind of fits in that category of just very soulful music, just bass, guitar, keys, Fender Rhodes. Like it's just classic sounding, like R&B, but just updated. And I would love to hear taking like Mariah's vocals, where it's not as wispy that she does with Jermaine Dupri, and kind of and pushing her vocals a little bit more than she has in the past on an Anderson Paak production. Like I love to hear almost like what Anderson and Bruno did with Silk Sonic with Mariah. Can you imagine it's almost like these mixtapes they used to do back in the day. There's a guy named Green Lantern. He would take vocals from rappers and put it with instrumentals or hip hop tracks. Man, I would love to hear almost like a mashup of Mariah Carey's vocals on Silk Sonic's album. If you're a DJ and do this, like do it. And then put up and give me some credit as executive producer. Because I think her vocals match perfectly with Anderson Paak's music. So, hell, we got to help out Mariah. We got to knock off Shaboozey and Lil Nas X off that chart. So next Christmas, if she doesn't do it this year, we got to make All I Want for Christmas the number one song of all time. Let's do it, people. We got to do it for Mariah. And do it for my love of the charts. Because this streaming thing is just out of control.